Hey, how's it going, Ellie? I'm going to interview you today. Ellie, can you tell us a little bit about what year you graduated and what you're up to now?
Yeah, so I graduated last year. And so right now I'm going to college at St. Olaf and I'm majoring in bio and then I'm on their track team.
Okay, so you're on the track team. So you competed this winter. How was the competition this winter? How'd you like it?
Yeah, so definitely the college level is different than high school. Took a little readjusting, especially the first few meets, early December, January. But turned out pretty good and kind of bummed we didn't get an outdoor season, but
Right.
happy we got a full season.
So the outdoor, you would have been maybe doing the shot put, discus, hammer throw, maybe too. I don't. Yeah.
Yep, yep, that was gonna be the goal.
Did you do the
So
weight throwing indoors too?
I did. That was kind of a one and done experience. I practiced it the night before a meet just as a joke, and it actually didn't turn out horrible. And they're like, "Hey, we got a spot. We'll slide you right in." But kind of got tossed around a little bit and
Yeah.
decided I don't think that's for me.
Yeah, watching the weight throw and the hammer, it's not a natural movement. It's like spinning, and you have so much like you're on your heels, and if you like screw up or like you lose your balance, you're gonna like wipe out, right? Is that kind of how it goes or not?
Yeah, you're gonna get tossed. You're definitely gonna hit the ground. It's not gonna be fun, but it'll probably be okay. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully you get a chance to do that in the future, and um, maybe we can see some of that, I guess. Okay. So I want to go back a little bit into high school. And the reason we're doing this is to help kids kind of relate to the sport, maybe hear some stories, what the sport has meant to you, and how you've grown because of it. Can you tell us just how you joined track, how that happened, what year maybe you did that, and how it went down?
yeah, okay. So I kind of joined track a little bit later. I didn't join till ninth grade. I was in softball before that. And so I have a few brothers, and two of them were in track at that time, and they'd always come home with like a ribbon or a medal or a story, and I just wanted to be a part of that, and so that's kind of why I joined track. Not necessarily because I thought I was going to be great at running, and I didn't even know throwing was a thing, but I just wanted to check it out because it seemed like so much fun.
Now, your freshman year is when you came out, correct? Okay.
Yep.
So I think that year, what events did you participate in at the varsity level that year?
I want to say I did like the 800s. I don't know if I touched the 400s at that point, and then discus.
No shot put though, your freshman year at all that you remember?
I did shot put, but I didn't throw far enough.
You had some pretty good
um,
kids in front of you too, pretty good girls in front of you, right?
yeah, we were pretty stacked actually. Yeah, we had Jessica Bleasy, Kari, Beth. I think
Yeah,
Nicole was in there.
yeah,
So,
good group. Yeah. So now you did the 800. What was your best time in the 800? You remember what your best split was?
um, maybe like 232.
That's good. I mean, that's like one of the better times you'd have in our team right now if we were able to compete. So that's a respectable time. So at that point, I think you maybe at the end of that year, going the next year, you focused more on the throws and you had to make a decision upon which would be the best career path for you. And I think we had pretty good middle distance runners, and we thought that we needed you more in the throws um, than in the middle distance. But it was fun though. Um, what
Definitely
was it?
learned a lot.
What was it like those maybe your first year and how what the experience was like switching sports at maybe at kind of the middle of high school or so?
It was fun because you have all these new events to try, and you've never really done them. Not necessarily the running events, because there's a little bit more strategy. So that was kind of like a learning curve, and asking older people, like, what's the best way to run a 400? Like, when do you speed up, or type of thing. But then also meeting people. They're people that I necessarily hadn't interacted with because they were upperclassmen. And just in high school, there's not a whole lot of opportunity for you to meet old upperclassmen. And so that was different because in softball, you're kind of all on your team, and there's not a lot of upperclassmen interaction.
What, I want you to talk about that. What's it like as far as you being younger, let's say when you're a freshman coming in, and how valuable the older athletes were to you? And then let's start with that. How was it? How valuable were they into your own development?
I would say that was priceless, and that is really what drove me further into track. So for example, for running, I remember our workout, it was like 3 by 400 meters or something like that. And by the second one, I was like, done. I just wanted to stop. And I remember Brittany Salmar coming over to me after like the second one, and she's like, no, 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 you got it. Like, breathe in, breathe out, like recover. And I remember getting back up to that line to run another one, and just seeing her going at full speed, and also upperclassmen just going for it, and knowing that everybody was hurting at that time, but just trusting the process and knowing, hey, if she can do it, I can do it. She believes in me. We can do this together.
Okay. Now you had it's kind of a special relationship with the throwers last year. I thought I put a lot on you last year. Without a throws coach, I kind of had you. Well, I shouldn't say it without a throws coach, but Mr. Roggenbuck's working with the throwers, and he was only because of being a principal was only able to be there during certain times. So a lot of the responsibility was put upon you to help them. How do you? What did you learn by that mentorship component where you were put into and thrust, maybe not by your own choice, into a leadership position? How'd that impact you?
That's a hard one. I would say, so I had Coach Stroup as kind of really my coach growing up, especially in the throws. And so I remember him taking the time, even though I wasn't very good, and investing in me because he believed in me. And so for me, I wanted to pass that on and do as much as I could for everyone around me, but especially the throwers, because that's where I was at. And so that means, well, for me, that means to take every situation. So whether that be a technical cue, maybe correcting it and say, hey, why don't you try this instead of that? Or even, if somebody has a good throw, hey, that's a good throw. That's definitely improvement. Those little extra things add up, and it makes, first of all, it makes everyone happier, creates a happy atmosphere, and then that kind of grows.
Okay, so you've had a lot of people that have influenced you, whether it's coaches or other athletes. Can you talk about maybe an influence that you've had that's in track that's spilt over into other parts of your life?
Yeah, so I would definitely say Coach Stroup introducing me to the sport was awesome. But he didn't just make it about numbers and like, if you throw this far, like you're doing great. If you don't, you need to pick it up. He made it more of like each interaction was something positive, and for me, I wanted to pass that on, not only in athletics but also in like academics. Whether that be smiling at a classmate, asking how their day was. I learned that those little connections can make somebody's day much better.
Okay, that's awesome. So we talked a little bit about your competing in college. How is it different in college versus high school? Track and field wise.
Track and field wise, I would say, well, you have a strict event coach, and so that kind of varies between different programs in high school. So I had a throwing coach, which was nice. It's somebody who's dedicated, who really knows what they're doing, and is willing to spend a lot of time with you and improve your technique. And you also have the support of like trainers who keep you healthy. And so it's kind of a whole team that makes you better. You just have more resources, I guess, per se. And you have more responsibility because you're kind of there. You're there for your education, and that's your future running on the line. But then you're also there for the college because you want to do as well as you can to perform.
Okay. Now, you've had some really good accomplishments, school records, placing high at state meet, winning true team state championship. You're on that team. Do you have one memory that kind of sticks out above everything as far as being your favorite thing that you've had happen when you're involved with track and field in Osakis?
Like everybody else, I definitely say true team 2017, but also another close one is definitely conference last year. The women went 1-2-3, 1-2-3 in shot and disc. And so for me, that was a really critical point in where our program was, because I know that that had been maybe not necessarily a listed goal, but a goal for me. And I know I'll probably a goal for other past athletes. And that shows how much our program has built and hopefully the direction that it's going.
Yeah, good answer. How about that 2017 state meet? Any memories from that at all you can share with the listeners?
Oh, pouring rain, freezing, and watching people give it everything they have over and over again, even though they're cold, even though they're wet. They know what it's going to be like going out there, and just the willingness to for your team. You know, it's not something that you necessarily enjoy doing, but you're going to give it everything you've got, and you know everybody else is going to do the same thing.
Yeah, well said. How about your favorite memory or something not related to competition itself that really sticks out with you, as far as maybe a funny story or emotions that you might have had after something happened, or something that's not related to competition itself? What's maybe a memory you have with that from high school? What's kind of, if you think back, what kind of sticks in your gut as far as like, this is a funny moment or emotional moment, that sort of thing?
I would say we were taking a nap in one of the tents, and the thrower, it was a big deal because we got our own tent that year. And so I think we were in St. John's or something. And we were taking a nap because it was a super nice day out. And we ended up missing warm-ups. And we just went into competition the way it was. And I think everyone PR'd, actually. It was just a super weird occurrence. I would not recommend doing that. But definitely gets your adrenaline pumping.
I bet, yeah. You wake up, it's like the alarm clock goes off, and you're not sure if it's like 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. It's like, hey, I gotta go, right?
Yeah.
How about, what are you doing during right now we're in the middle of our shelter in place. There's no college practice. Obviously, your season's been called off. You don't know no competition at all for you. The high school team, we don't know what's going on there. We don't know if it's going to be a season or not. How are you dealing with that? And then let's start with that. How are you dealing with not know the restrictions that are placed upon you? And I know you love to work out and you love to throw. So how are you still doing all that?
Well, originally, before the state ice order thing was given, I was going to go to Arizona. Nice weather. I was just going to pack up the van and live out of the van and kind of just stay at parks, you know. But I'm obviously here, so I'm using what resources I have. So if that means practicing med ball drills on the driveway, then we're going to do that to the best of my ability. And even in my workouts, when I'm feeling that I can't control anything and that I'm just disappointed or upset, I use my workouts, whether that be like push-ups, making sure I'm doing every rep and I'm making it count. And so for me, that's something that I can control, and just that helps me keep focus on where I am right now and what I can control.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And lastly, this is the last question for you. What recommendations or ideas do you have for the current athletes, especially throwers, in this time, not knowing what's going to happen and having restrictions upon them?
I would prepare, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know when it could have, for me, for example, I didn't know that a last chance meet was going to be my last college meet. I didn't know that, but I prepared and I just went out there and gave it everything I have. And I think, especially when you're in this season of uncertainty, you're going to completely regret it if you end up getting a season and you're not ready. I mean, that's the worst. That is the worst thing that could happen to you. And I mean, there's also online meets that are happening for throwers, I know, virtually. And so taking every opportunity that you have and making the most of it.
Yeah, and maybe I should have talked about this too with your college season. You were 2 inches away from making nationals, Division III. Is that correct?
I think it turned out to be a little bit more, like 4 or 5, but it was tight.
Not much, yeah. That's pretty minor. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's and that's and one of the things with track and field you can learn from. I shouldn't say failures, but reaching the goal isn't always the most important thing. It's doing what you can do to reach that goal. Like for example, you missed that little bit to go to nationals. Now, granted, that'd have been awesome to do that. Or like at the state meet, the high school league meet last year in the discus. For those of you who didn't know this, Ellie was in first place all through the entire competition, and she finished her last throw, and there's one other girl to throw after her. The girl after her betted her by just a little bit and ended up winning it. Ellie ended up placing second in the entire state, Class A, in discus. But those things are very emotional and they're hard at the time. But sometimes it's those little hard things, those little challenges you have in life, and working through those is just as valuable. Would you agree with that, Ellie?
Yes.
That's the thing with sports, especially, is in life too, is you can try all you want, but sometimes it doesn't happen, and those things are out of your control. You can just do what you can do to prepare for those situations. And so, but anyways, Ellie, I really do appreciate you coming with me, or coming on here to be interviewed. I know that the current athletes will like to hear your voice. Many of them are used to kind of hearing from you as a kind of a source of information and support. So please do what you can do to keep on supporting the athletes like you have been. And for those of you that don't know this, Ellie has been helping to write most of the throwers workouts this year because again, we're kind of stretched thin with coaching staff. We don't have enough resources to cover all of our events. So by default, I shouldn't say by default, but because Ellie is such a dang great person, she steps up and continues to be a great resource to our team. And that's one of the cool things about the sport. Well, not just sports in general, is that when you leave the way that Ellie left, or anybody, is that you will always be a part of that team from that point forward. Okay, Ellie, you have a good day. Maybe after I stop recording, you stay in the line and just chit chat a little bit. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay.